Hi, I'm Amy with Good Little Home, and I am so excited to be here with you guys today. I am going to show you how to make this beautiful, let me get it back on screen, beautiful plate that you can use either as a place setting or you can just display it. It's absolutely gorgeous either way. So let's just go ahead and get started on it. The first thing I want to do is go over a list of the materials that you're going to be needing. You're going to need the Maker's Studio Etching Cream. You're going to need the hot and spicy ceramic paint. You're going to need the metallic chalk art paint. You're going to need stencils of your choice. I'm using branches. Let me grab one because I don't have one right here. I'm using some little branches that I cut up off the welcome sign and one of the birds off the bird sign. So let's go ahead and get started. I have to change my cameras around, so hang on for 1 second while I do that. Okay, so the first thing that you do, there are 3 steps to it. We're going to do some etching and we're going to do some painting and we're going to do some chalk art. So the first thing I like to do is to figure out where I'm going to etch down to, because I don't want to etch into, let me grab my example plate again. I don't want to etch into this part where I painted. So to figure out where exactly we need to stop the etching, I'm going to I want to be able to have that whole thing flat, and you'll see why when we get to that step. So it looks to me like, and I'm going to use a lot of painter's tape, guys. Painter's tape is your friend. Looks to me like if I etch down to about there, and I'm going to mark it on both sides. And I do like to use my my matte lines to help me line things up. So now I know this is the part that I'm going to etch and this is the part that I'm going to paint. So first thing I'm going to do is take my, you know what? I forgot to clean the plate. Let's back up. Let's take just a little bit of alcohol and make sure that our surface is clean. Okay, so this is all taken care of. So what I've got is I used from the welcome stencil, these pieces of branches, and I just cut them out of that stencil. And I just kind of actually put them on there and played with them until I liked it. Again, we don't want any of the etching to go onto the flat surface of the plate. Guys, I have become, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, I don't know, but I have become an etching addict. Since I learned how to do this, it's so easy. And now anything in my house that is clear glass is fair game. I'm also a really messy crafter. Anyone that's watched any of my videos knows that I'm a really messy crafter. And I own it, it's okay. But any place where I see light peeking through that, like, let's see, let me lift this up and get a little bit closer to the camera, but you might even be able to see it better from the back. Right here, there's light peeking through between the 2 pieces of stencil. And I don't want the etching cream to get on it, so I'm just going to stick a little piece of tape there. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and put my little birdie on. That's going to go in the center, covering up parts of those edges too. Now everything that is plate that is still exposed, I'm going to go ahead and cover. Because like I said, I am messy, messy, messy. I do not pounce very neatly. One of those to thine own self be true things. I know this about me. I know that I am messy. And so it's just best sometimes. I need a scissor to kind of pull that tape back. So now I have my stencils. I hope you guys can see that. I have my stencils on and I have everything where I don't want the etching cream to touch taped off. And I just noticed I went a little too far there. So I'm going to have to pull that up a little bit because I do want that whole leaf to show. You guys, it's not rocket science, so feel free to use your nails to bend and pull and stuff on the tape. And sometimes looking from the back, you can find spots you missed. But I think I'm okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is take my Maker Studio etching cream. I'm going to open it up. And I have a little plastic dish that I use. And then I'm going to take my Maker Studio foam dome and I'm going to stick it in this etching cream. And the etching cream is one thing that you really don't have to offload. So just start pouncing. You want to make sure you get good coverage all over. You want to be careful, guys, not to get this in your eyes when you're pouncing. Sometimes you'll get a little rogue piece that flies up into the air. Okay, so I'm going to let that sit for a second. I got this really cool little thing from Amazon. Off camera where you can't see it, but you'll be able to see it in just a minute. I'm going to bring it on camera. I have a little water bath, but I'm just throwing all that stuff over there into the water bath. So you can take your foam dome and kind of use it. As I do this, you see that white pattern? That's just the etching cream that went through. Like I said, you see that that's white. That's the etching cream. And again, I just grab my foam dome because it's already floating in there. You might think that it disappeared for a sec. When you got it wet, it does kind of look like that in water, like it's disappeared, but it hasn't. When you dry it, it comes back. So let's see if I can get this to a good angle on the camera where you can see the etching. There we go. Righty. So this part is all done. So I am going to go ahead and pull this tape because now I need to tape it the other way. Before I didn't want my etching to get into my painted area. Now I don't want my painted area to get into my etching. This time I'm going to tape. It'll be over part of the etching because I want the paint to come right up to that line. Oops, not straight. All right. Because I wanted this to be glossy, instead of painting on the front of the plate, where it's going to have a matte finish. So now the next thing we're going to do is the word. And the word is a little bit tricky because it's got to go on upside down so that from the front of the plate it reads correctly. But again, because I really, really, really wanted to have it retain its glossiness, I decided that I was going to work from the back of the plate, and this is the only way to do it. So, and again, I want the whole thing to stay on the flat surface if possible. So, see, that's above the tape. It's got to stay below the tape and on a flat surface. So again, lining it up is going to be the hardest part. So that's as good as I can get it. We'll see what happens. I did use a different word on the example one, but I wanted different words when I'm done. So, all right. So because this has no adhesion, we do have the advantage with this of being able to look at it from the front side to see what's going on when we start pouncing. And I see I did miss a little spot right there. Okay. Now, I know we usually use our scraper tool to put chalk paint on with, but since there's no sticky on it, I don't want it to have that kind of motion. So I had to go to the dollar store to get this smaller pouncer. The Maker Studio one was just a little bit too big for this. It just kind of pulled up too hard. So now I'm going to take my Maker Studio and I'm using the metallic gold. Isn't that pretty? I just go, ooh, every time I open it because it's so pretty. And I'm just going to get some on my pouncer, and I am going to offload it a little bit onto the edge of the jar. Now, I'm just going to pounce it on, just like we did with the etching cream. And it's going to take a lot of paint, but be careful. Don't be tempted to skip the offloading step, thinking you can get more paint on. You can, but it tends to clump up then, and it doesn't look very pretty when you're done. And again, you need some forceful pouncing on this to get it to go through the stencil. But we can turn it over and see what it's looking like. It looks pretty good. I think it needs a little more though. It's still pretty light. Okay, I'm going to turn that over again and see what it looks like from the front. It actually looks pretty good. At the top of the G, I have a little bit of a mess, but it's not too bad. And I'm just going to try to unclump it. Let's see how that looks now. That's okay. it did kind of go through the stencil, but we can clean that up with a Q-tip. So that looks pretty good. I think that's probably about as good as we're going to be able to get it. So now, the moment of truth. Let's pull it. Okay. So I do see a couple of places. And I'm just going to wet my Q-tip a little bit in my bath over here. And use a Q-tip to clean it up. Okay, welcome back. You guys didn't even know I was gone, did ya? So I let this dry for about an hour. I wanted to make sure that it was going to be good and dry before I put the ceramic paint over the top of it so that it wouldn't pull that paint when I put the ceramic on. I apologize, you guys. I'm kind of grovelly. Allergies. So I am going to use a sponge to put the ceramic on, and I just realized I need to move this piece of tape from this side of the plate to the other side. Okay, this time I want my tape, the bottom edge, to touch just where the etching is. And make sure that you kind of varnish it down a little, because we are going to need the tape to make a nice sharp edge. Okay, so I'm just going to put some of this is again the ceramic paint. Let's see if I have enough left. Whoa, and I see I've bopped some out there. Okay, I'm just going to put it on my brush and try to salvage that little bit because I'm running low on this color. I've been using it a lot. It is a beautiful color for fall projects. And see if that works better. Oh. You know what the messy crafter forgot to do? Put down something under there so I don't get paint all over my mat. Okay, not too late. I can still fix it. There we go. No paint on the mat. Okay, so this is going to take 3 coats, or that's what I used on the example plate, was 3 coats. And the reason is, you'll be able to see this when I lift it up. It's just doesn't go on thick enough, the first coat. So we need to let this dry and then put on a second coat. Now I'm going to speed it up a little bit with the hairdryer, but I wouldn't. Just let it naturally dry if you have time to. If you don't have time to, you can use a hairdryer, but I think it works better if you just let it dry. feels dry enough to go ahead and put the second coat on. Okay, let's try this one. Okay, and last coat. This should be enough to really cover everything up so you don't see the brush strokes or anything. Okay, so now when I hold this up, it has nice coverage, I guess is the words I'm looking for. And when you turn it over, look how pretty that is. So now we're going to pull the tape. And it's like pulling the tape when you're doing the gold leaf. You want to do it at an angle and go kind of slow. While I'm doing this, I'm going to tell you that the ceramic paint that I have is the kind that has to be baked. So I'm going to put this in the oven, a cold oven. I'm going to turn it on to 325. I'm going to leave this in there on 325 for 30 minutes. And then I'm going to turn off my oven. And I'm going to let this sit in the oven until the oven has cooled again. If you have the kind of paint that's no bake, you're done. At this point, all you have to do is wait for it to do its thing. So there you go. Isn't that pretty? So now we have Grateful and Blessed, both with the little birds. I think those are so pretty. All right, you guys. Well, thanks for crafting with me, and I hope we can craft again sometime. Have a good day. Bye-bye.